All right, let's unpack this. We're doing a deep dive today into a stack of sources all about transformation.
Yeah, it's specifically the kind of really profound changes that can happen after a big physical shift,
Mm.
like significant weight loss.
Exactly. We've got some field notes here featuring a woman named Adrienne, and also some really insightful reflections from someone named Dan Hollis.
And the mission really is to explore that psychological landscape that often gets overlooked, the stuff that happens after the physical change.
And importantly, how we navigate the inevitable stumbles that come with that process.
And here's where it gets really interesting, I think, because, so many of us focus on the struggle to change, right? The effort involved.
Right.
But these sources, they really highlight how the toughest part, maybe the real crisis, can actually hit you
Or
afterward.
after. How so?
Well, it's when the old stuff feels like it's gone, maybe the weight or the old habits,
Mm-hmm.
and you're just left standing there.
Uh-huh.
And you might feel, I don't know, like a stranger, even to yourself.
Wow. Okay, that's pretty counterintuitive. Why would after be the hard part, and how does that actually show up for someone?
Well, the sources point to this really specific moment with Adrian.
Yeah.
It wasn't dramatic or anything. It was just brushing your teeth.
Brushing your teeth.
Yeah, picture it. Same bathroom, same sink,
Hmm.
the usual routine. She leans over, looks up into the mirror,
Hmm.
and she just didn't recognize the woman looking back. Her face was different.
Yeah.
Thinner. Sure, sharper lines maybe.
Yeah.
But also somehow older
Mm.
and newer, both at the same time. It was strange.
So intellectually, she knew it was her face.
Oh, absolutely. She knew it was her, logically,
Mm-hmm.
but the feeling wasn't there. The person looking back felt unfamiliar, like she didn't quite belong to that reflection anymore.
Wow. That's a powerful image. And the notes say she was, 53? Hadn't taken a full body photo in ages, had those gold jeans tucked away.
Right, navigating a lot of hesitation around her body for years.
Hmm.
And physically, things had changed. Medication helped. Her knees felt better. Clothes fit differently.
Hmm.
Tangible stuff.
But that moment in the mirror, it wasn't the triumph everyone expects. It felt more like a disappearance.
Exactly. And this feeling, this disconnect, this is precisely what Dan Hollis explores in these notes we have.
Hmm.
He actually has a name for it.
Does he? What's it called?
He calls it identity lag.
Identity lag. Okay.
Yeah. And the core idea is pretty simple, really. Your body, the physical form, it can transform much faster than your internal story.
Your sense of self.
Your sense of self, exactly.
Yeah.
It just can't keep up sometimes. And when that gap happens, that's where you get this internal dissonance, this feeling of strangeness.
Okay, so let me make sure I'm getting this. It's not just the physical process of losing weight itself, which, let's be honest, everyone knows is hard.
Right.
You're saying the sources suggest the real challenge, this potential crisis point, it often arrives later.
Yes. When the old hungers maybe start to fade, or the rituals you used to cope with, things begin dissolving.
When the physical armor, the weight maybe that you carried around, just drops away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And suddenly you feel exposed,
Yeah.
maybe unrecognizable, even or especially to yourself.
So Adrienne wasn't necessarily mourning the actual pounds she'd lost.
That's what comes through so clearly in the sources, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She was mourning the version of herself who had carried that weight.
The person she used to be.
That person knew how to navigate the world. She had her social scripts down pat, right? Knew which sweaters worked, which self-deprecating jokes would land okay, which apologies sounded casual enough.
She was skilled at being her old self. It was familiar territory.
Totally skilled.
Yeah.
And suddenly, poof,
Yeah.
that familiar self felt gone, or at least harder to access. She's a body in transition, but her mind, her internal map hadn't caught up yet.
Right, no map for this new territory. So what do you do with that feeling, that lag?
Well, that's what's so interesting about how Dan Hollis seemed to approach it with her. He didn't jump in with, platitudes like, oh, you should be so proud, or
Yeah.
fixes.
Right.
No, he just listened.
Yeah.
Really listened, mirrored back what she was saying, almost like he was just holding the space for that confusion.
Yeah.
And then he offered this really powerful reframe. He said something like, the weight loss, that's just the clearing, the becoming. That takes longer.
The clearing. Wow, that changes everything, doesn't it?
Right. It reframes the whole experience.
It's not an endpoint you've failed to appreciate. It's just clearing the ground so something new can be built.
Exactly. The work isn't over, it's just shifting, beginning on a different level, maybe a deeper level.
And the notes say they started with language, actually changing the words they use.
Yes, that was key.
Mm-hmm.
Actively rewriting the names of things, like turning the feeling of shame into just memory,
Okay.
or shifting from control to curiosity. Discipline becoming alignment.
Huh. So this linguistic shift, it's like actively building that new internal map you were talking about.
Precisely. And crucially, it grants permission. Permission
Right.
to be in that awkward, uncomfortable, in-between space.
Permission to not have it all figured out yet.
Exactly. Permission to build a new story without feeling like you have to completely demolish the old one first.
And the sources mention, after that conversation, the mirror didn't physically change, obviously,
No.
but how Adrienne greeted it did. She didn't flinch away anymore, maybe didn't, like, break into a huge smile yet, but she stood there longer, just lingered for a moment. That feels significant, that pause.
It is significant.
Oh.
It's the beginning, maybe, of belonging to yourself again, but in this new form. And this connects really beautifully, I think, to another critical idea from Dan Hollis that comes through in these materials.
Sure.
How we deal with setbacks.
Yeah.
You know, what we usually call failure in this whole transformation process.
Right, because let's be real, transformation, especially something as long and complex as changing your body or deeply ingrained habits, it is not a straight line.
Never. There are always going to be stumbles, missteps, days you fall back into old patterns.
And our default conditioning often is to see that as failure, like proof that you're weak or undisciplined or somehow broken.
But Dan Hollis, he completely flips that script. He basically says failure isn't the end. It's not a verdict.
Okay, so what is it then?
It's a message. It's feedback. Sometimes, he says, it's the most honest conversation you can possibly have with yourself.
Huh. Not a shame story you have to hide.
No. It's just data, a data point, something to get curious about, not judgmental.
A data point. Wow. Okay, that changes the energy completely.
Hasn't it?
So he's saying if you, say, slip back into old eating habits, it's not necessarily a moral failing.
Not at all. It might just be your brain asking for a familiar comfort, a known pathway.
And ignoring that message, pretending it didn't happen, that's where the real problem lies. That's when you might actually fracture the process.
Exactly. And this isn't just about weight loss. You know, the sources suggest this applies so broadly. Any area where you're trying to change behavior. And they make this point strongly for people maybe using tools like medication as well. Often, someone isn't failing the medication.
They're failing to prepare for what comes after.
Perhaps. Or failing to adjust the support systems or the internal coping strategies when the initial physical changes happen and new challenges arise. A breakdown in progress isn't always a sign the person is weak.
It could mean the approach needs adjusting, the support needs strengthening.
Precisely. Look at the data point. Get curious.
There's a line in the notes that really stuck with me. Setbacks are sacred if you look at them with curiosity instead of judgment.
That mindset shift is everything, isn't it?
Totally.
The real shame, maybe, isn't in stumbling at all. It's in pretending you were supposed to be perfect throughout the whole messy human process anyway.
And grace. He talks about grace. It isn't about pretending you didn't fall.
No. Grace is built, he suggests, by how you respond. By reaching for a better tool next time, not reaching for blame.
Right. It's about asking, okay, what story am I telling myself about this setback right now?
Yeah. And crucially, is that story actually helping me become who I want to be?
That question is so powerful. It just instantly shifts the focus, doesn't it? From the event itself, the fall, to the ongoing process of getting up and moving forward.
It transforms how you relate to every single misstep. Not just in physical health, but like in anything. Any area of life where you're genuinely striving for change.
Learning how to fail forward, as the sources kind of hint at, maybe that's the most lasting transformation of all.
Could be. It's about integrating those difficult moments, those data points, into the larger story of your growth.
Instead of letting them define you as simply a failure.
Which loops us right back to Adrienne's experience, really. Learning to fill that new physical frame, not with fear or judgment.
With permission, with new language, with the understanding that stumbling is just part of the path.
Part of the path to belonging to yourself again. The journey isn't over when the physical change seems done. In many ways, it's just moving into this new, often deeper phase of integration.
So let's pull this together. What does this all mean for you listening? We've looked at Adrienne's experience with identity lag, that really disorienting moment when her body changed faster than her internal story could keep up.
Yeah, leaving her feeling like a stranger in her own mirror. And we explored how she wasn't really mourning the weight itself, but the version of her who carried it, the one who knew all the old rules and coping mechanisms.
And we saw how Dan Hollis offers this really profound reframe, seeing weight loss or any big change as just the clearing. The real work, the ongoing part, is the becoming.
And a key part of that becoming is emphasizing the power of rewriting our internal language. Turning shame into memory, swapping control for curiosity, discipline for alignment.
And just granting ourselves permission to be in that sometimes uncomfortable, messy in-between space.
Definitely. And we also dug into that really powerful idea from Dan Hollis that failure, it isn't an endpoint. It's not a shameful secret.
It's valuable feedback, a data point.
Even a sacred setback, potentially, if you can approach it with curiosity instead of hammering yourself with judgment.
Right. He really underscores that grace comes from reaching for a better tool when you stumble, not reaching for blame.
And the critical importance of asking yourself, what story is this setback telling? And more importantly, what story does it tell about who I want to become?
So if you've ever looked in the mirror after a change and felt like the physical shape was maybe right or different, but the person inside felt lost.
Or if your reflection just felt like a stranger for a while.
You are definitely not alone.
Yeah.
You're likely in what the sources call that quiet window moment.
Yeah. Actively, maybe unconsciously sometimes, learning how to belong to yourself again in this new chapter.
The old patterns might be fading, sure, but something potentially more honest, maybe more aligned with who you are now, is waiting to arrive.
Let it in. Give yourself some grace for the whole messy, nonlinear process. You're exactly where you need to be on the journey right now.
Okay, so here's a final thought for you to take away and consider. If our physical form, our bodies, can indeed change rapidly, often outpacing our sense of self, how do we then consciously and maybe more importantly, compassionately build that new internal map? How do we write the new narrative needed to truly integrate the external transformation?